Welcome back, my friends. I'm Dick Carlson. We're speaking with retired Air Force General Michael Hayden, former director of both the CIA and the NSA, an expert on cybersecurity. And I have a bunch of questions, but I like a question that Bill Cowan has, and I'm going to ask him to go first, please.
The Israelis, of course, were worried about the Iranians putting a nuclear weapon on top of them, and somebody, probably the Israelis, maybe us, went after the software programs, the computer programs of the Iranians with a program called Stuxnet.
Right.
What can you tell us about it?
Well, not much. but
I bet you know a lot, though, right?
Well, no, I wouldn't even speculate on that.
Okay, right.
But if you take what's been portrayed in the newspaper and assume that that's a reasonably accurate account, what happened there is quite remarkable. We talked about computer network attack before, and generally in our history, when somebody's done the attack, actually trying to delay, disrupt, destroy, and so on, it's been for cyber effect. Estonia, 2007, they're tearing down a Soviet Army memorial, and patriotic Russian hackers collapsed the Estonian cyber network. Georgia, 2008, a repeat with Russian troops heading towards Skin Valley, and perhaps Tbilisi, we didn't know at the time, the same patriotic hackers take down Georgian government websites. But that's cyber for cyber effect. Stuxnet's different. This is a first-time thing. Here, somebody used a cyber weapon, ones and zeros, to take over the control system of the Iranian nuclear complex in Natanz, convince one of the governing computers there to send orders to the centrifuges to spin at self-destructive speeds while telling the operator, everything's good, everything is normal. And about 1,000 centrifuges destroyed themselves at Natanz. Now, look, I view that to be an absolute good.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But if I step back from that, and let me rephrase what I just said to you in a slightly different way. Someone, almost certainly a nation state, because this is too complicated to be done in your basement or in your dad's garage, okay? Someone just determined it to be a legitimate act of, and I'll let you fill in the blank, self-defense, counterproliferation, to conduct a computer-based attack against what another nation could only describe as their critical infrastructure. That's a big deal. That's never happened before. I tell other audiences that has the sense of an army crossing the Rubicon. You've got a legion now on the other side of the river. And again, I don't want to in any way compare this in terms of destructive power or maybe even insignificance, but there's an element here that has a smell of August 1945. It's a new class of weapon that's been used for the first time. And someone just legitimated its use in peacetime to achieve objectives. That's a big deal.
That is a big deal. What is your biggest fear, by the way, General, in terms of cyber?
In terms of cyber?
Yes.
Yeah, that we Americans won't figure out how it is we want our government to defend us in cyberspace. I talk about this to public audiences, and I can wave my arms for 40 minutes and make everyone afraid of that thing they still have in their pocket, their BlackBerry or their iPhone, and I can convince them it's a zone of conflict. And of course, their instincts are zone of conflict. Where's my government? I pay taxes. Why isn't the government defending me? And I get done with my speech, and they actually reach into their pocket, pull out that instrument, slide it over, and now start to check their email. And what was a zone of conflict when I was waving my arms, now is a zone of personal communication. And every stitch, every inch of their political, cultural American being says, zone of communication, personal communication. I'm not so sure I want the government to be there. And if the government is there at all, I don't want it to be very invasive or very powerful. We haven't figured that out. In those other domains, land, sea, air, space, we kind of worked out the rules, although there are rough points here. As somebody in the intelligence business, we have tensions as to what's appropriate, lawful, and effective sometimes, even in physical space. In cyberspace, we have no idea. And so remember I mentioned the greatest concentration of cyber power on the planet up the BW Parkway here. Most of those players don't even have their helmets on or chin straps buttoned. They're sitting on the bench because we have not yet figured out what it is we want our government to do or what it is we will permit our government to do to defend us in cyberspace.
I'd like to shift focus for a moment and ask you to do some self-reflection. So many years at the top of national security agencies and spy agencies, How's that impacted on you? Are you less trusting or more skeptical about human nature? What do you think the effect has been on your development?
Two macro thoughts. I was actually asked in an interview once something along these lines, and I said, my normal rhythm when I was CIA director was get in the car about 5:30, my briefer's in there, I got the president's book and a whole bunch of other things that aren't ready for presidential prime time, and I start reading it and the briefer starts talking, and we drive to the headquarters and we go up in the elevator and we continue it. About an hour and 10 minutes later, I'm done with that. And the summary statement I would give is, it's hard to have confidence in human nature reading that book 6 days out of 7.
Yeah.
But there's another element. I think people with my background are now reasonably tolerant of people. Now, look, we know there's evil in the world, and Lord knows our government, our people, our nation expects us to go out and deal with that evil. But by and large, we're fairly non-judgmental. There's a great line in a great movie talking about, there aren't the good people over here and the bad people over here. Everybody's kind of a mix. Now, I take it that some are mixed pretty badly and some are mixed pretty well. But when you have to sit across the table, as we did, from Musa Kusa, the head of the Libyan intelligence service, because now Libya was allied with us against terrorism, and you are expected by your government and your people to work in that space, however narrow it might be, and establish whatever human relationship is necessary to achieve success in that space. You begin to compartmentalize your judgment with what it is you have to do. So you've got a mix of both. So I'm not pessimistic about human nature. I think I'm more realistic and maybe a bit more understanding than I would otherwise be.
We're out of time. General Michael Hayden, great guy, interesting guy, former head of CIA, former head of NSA, and on our side in the cyber war that we're facing.